Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. And this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Philip. And here's his story. Hi, Ollie. I've learned a lot by watching your videos. It's helped me fill in the gaps in an otherwise illogical and unjust situation. I'm going to have to vastly shorten this story, which won't be easy. Way back around 2005, I was living in the South when Hurricane Katrina came barreling through. Just earlier, my sister and my best friend had passed away. I was ripe for a predator, and what made me even more vulnerable was visiting New Orleans on my own, both before and after Katrina came through. I met a malignant narc called Russell. This is his real name. Actually, to make a long story short, I ended up being psychologically held captive by him. Every time I was attacked and called the police, he turned the table on me. That happened many times, so I don't have to rehash each incident for time's sake. I was going to an alternative medicine school on the West Coast, and then he came along. I knew I was with someone crazy and violent, but with each time the police were turned against me, I resigned myself to the situation. I didn't know he was on all kinds of drugs, especially meth, nor did I know that he was wanted for a crime, burglary of a business in New Orleans. Well, how did the police know? I mean, if you kept interacting with the police never checked, ran his background, and saw he had open warrants? I'm unsure. Like, is this a friendship? Is this a romantic relationship? Nor did I know that he was arrested for various things in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and South Florida. To save time, I won't go into all those arrests. There's actually so much that I have to shorten the story to make it bearable. I also didn't know that he was HIV positive and that he was sleeping with all kinds of people without disclosing it, I guess. All right, so I guess this is a sexual nature, like a relationship. He ended up being kicked out of our apartment. I was able to stay because everyone could clearly see he was the problem. Meanwhile, at my school, the alternative medicine school, I was not received kindly. There was a lot of gossip about me. The students had gathered together to study at the town library, and a discussion came up about how I was at fault. All right, so let me tell you why that's happening. Okay, because who I would imagine you're hanging out with would be other gays and women, because that's the gossip culture in a school like that. You know, typically straight males are not gossiping about this type of stuff. They had a lot to say about my situation, but they knew zero. There were some really hideous people behind the love and light facade. I was so dissociated by all the trauma that I was called into the teacher's office. She compared her situation to mine by saying, "At least I take responsibility for my life." She was thrown out of apartment by a jerk landlord who threw her suitcase into the yard. And she equated that situation with my situation, with a drugged up sociopath who has a nationwide criminal record. I guess it made her ego feel good. However, I raised my voice in anger when she had the nerve to say that to me, and she sent me into the school administrator's office. He was a Jewish guy from the Northeast. He smoothly told me, "Are you sleeping with this guy?" in a perverted tone, as if he would like to know any salacious details. Of course, no one said, "Can I call social services for you?" or "How are you doing?" and "Can I help in any way?" Nope. I had enough of all the love and light and came to the conclusion that they were worse than the sociopath. I was still trauma bonded, and I then let him back into my life after I quit school the next day. Like, you're really making bad decisions. Really, really. You make just one impulsive decision after. It's impulse. Everything with you is on impulse. And this is the problem with that a lot of gays have, which is why there's so much drugs and meth and this type of stuff. It's this this impulse of a lot of people in the culture. Fast forward, he and I eventually parted ways. He went back to New Orleans to rob more people and live it up. Meanwhile, I was being groomed by his mother. I was almost out of money, down to my last $3,000, and she suggested I come to Maine. I believed all her poor me stories about her son. Yeah, if he's gay like that, he's just an extension of his mother. Look, the gay sociopath who's like this gay borderline sociopath are absolutely mirror images of his mother's, where he learned it from. You have to understand where they learn it from. Not saying all gays are like this. I'm saying this type of gay. I knew he was a pathological liar, etc. So whatever she told me would sound believable. I took an airplane there. I arrived amidst a huge snowstorm. When I eventually got to her house, there was a huge round table. She told me they were her relatives who she was helping out. It was immediately apparent to me she was a malignant narc. Look, if he's gay, from Maine, on meth and all those type of drugs, I guarantee you the whole family is addicted like that. And what he did is probably told mommy, I got this sucker with a lot of money, okay, and he'll just keep paying if you give him a sob story. It was immediately apparent that she was a malignant narc who was financially abusing the elderly and handicapped. Making this short, she and her lesbian partner, where he got it from, were bullying the heck out of these most sick old people. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what that is. So the mother's a lesbian, the son's gay. He learned from her. They're just whoever a soft target is, that's who they're going after. I had seen a lot of things I'll leave out for time's sake. When I had finally had enough and seen enough, I reached over for the phone to dial 911. Most of the time, a flying monkey was actually sitting next to the phone to guard it. The police came and I told them everything. Just like with her son, she turned the police against me, and I had to deal with a jerk, homophobic police officer being highly offensive to me. All my belongings were thrown out into the snow, and I called a taxi to live in a boarding house. Well, why? I mean, you flew up to me. Like, you just keep putting yourself out there for this. And I would have to ask you how you're acting towards the police. People like this, these meth heads, I have a hard time believing that they're so adept at fooling the police. Well, if they were so adept at fooling the police, how do they have these long criminal records? And I don't want you to accuse me of attacking you, like, I mean, you said this earlier with the guidance counselor. But, and I know you're saying you're shortening this, but there are some holes in this story, man. I had seen both and her son since about 4 years later when they did a Social Security scam to get her son on disability. They were salivating over getting a $15,000 back pay check. I always say that if you put 4 malignant narcs together, they can move mountains, and they succeeded. They got the bankruptcy check without a problem. However, the son was supposed to, by law, be living in the state they filed for disability in. However, he was actually robbing people in New Orleans. I actually copied a web page showing he was there instead of Maine. At the same time, he and his mother were doing a rental scam and a food stamp scam. Here's the problem, Philip. Okay? Here's the problem. And this is where gays get a bad rap, is this type of shit you're doing. This is the type of shit-stirring nonsense that most of society doesn't want to deal with. Doesn't when you are neck deep in it yourself. And I probably don't want to hear that, but you are neck deep in it. Like, why are you so neck deep in this for? You threw him out. You're out. He's back the next day. You're up to Maine. She's throwing you out. Now, 4 years later, you're back. What caused this in your life for you to even be able to, for you to even be putting up with this? A mutual friend of theirs was in jail and they borrowed his EBT food stamp card and bought $1,000 of food. Fast forward 5 more years, I was in Walmart and I ran into the lesbian couple, his mother and her partner. They had so many physical maladies that it's hard to mention them. The mother, Greed Incorporated, had a stomach stapling surgery and nearly died. Later, she nearly lost every tooth and nearly died from that. She then had a car accident hurting her neck and back. Her partner had gotten an infection on her foot and nearly lost the front half of her foot. But as they were telling me all this, I was thinking, well, you got what you deserved, but I didn't say it out loud. I soon realized that I was feeling sorry for them, despite what I knew they were capable of. Why would you even stop and talk to them in a Walmart after they threw all your shit out in the snow after what they did to you? Like, why do you keep going up to these people and talking to them after every time you do, they burn you? Because you're addicted to the drama as well. You got to admit, man, you are addicted to the drama as well. You want to know, even though it's 5 years later, 4 years later before that, when you see it, you got to have it. This is your drug. Like his drug is meth and everything else. You can't help yourself. And every time you do, you suck yourself right back into it. They were using that pity magic on me. They will go down to the end trying to get pity rather than living a good life. About 4 years ago, the son has left Maine to go back to New Orleans. He had strangled a guy who had to get a protection order, and I guess he decided too many people were onto him, or maybe just the animalism of the French Quarter beckoning to him. Keep in mind, for over 10 years, he's been on Social Security, supposedly with a mental illness, but he's been running all over the place, conning, lying, and getting arrested. Recently, he stole 2 cars in New Orleans. He also has a drug charge. For that, he is being seen by a mental health court. He goes to court tomorrow, but I suspect they will let him completely off. I just did a Google search for his name and I found this web page. Hopefully that link works. And hold on. It's not a link. It's... Let me see what this is. It says it doesn't. Page does not exist. Sorry, it says the page doesn't exist. Hopefully that link works. A woman was shot in the French Quarter. He is the guy with the receding hairline and the blue tank top wearing sunglasses. He acts as though he's in distress over the woman's death. Do you think this is just for show for everyone who is watching? Who cares? Why are you still involved? He certainly has no empathy for the people who were in his long path of destruction during his life. About me, I went through a lot of trauma, and it took me the better part of 10 years to recover to where I am now. I have a very peaceful life, but I've lived in isolation since then. I do have online friends who are positive and uplifting, and I've discovered a long-lost cousin who I now keep in contact with. I keep positive around and toxic away. It's hard for me to keep a higher vibration for a long time. Everything activated the pain, but that is very rare for me now. It still happens, but it's not at all common. Also, I'm not making foolish mistakes by feeling sorry for users and abusers. It wasn't easy for me to write this, but it's like a secret that I've had to live alone with so long. I wanted to tell it. Take care, Philip. You know, I understand this guy did damage to you a long time ago, and it's a hard thing to let go. Okay, but if you are going to engage the toxicity every time you see it, you're just going to stay, where you are. The question you got to ask yourself, Philip, and I'm not saying this to pick on you or to come down on you. People like this aren't able to hide their insanity and their piece of shittery that well. Especially since he has a friggin' arrest record a mile long. So why is it when the cops when the cops came around with you, they were able to fool the cops? I don't think that's about him. I think that's about how you were acting. Maybe you were coming over emotional. You couldn't control yourself. I'm not saying that to pick on you, but it might be the reality of why. Whereas it really wasn't so much him fooling the cops. It was how you were approaching the cops where the problem was. I don't know. I wasn't there. But there's a lot of arrests for someone to just be able to fool the cops in your case only. Because if he was so great at fooling cops, he wouldn't have an arrest record that long. And after what they've done to you, I mean, for you to keep taking them back, and once you're out, great. Seems like once you were thrown out in Maine, you only interacted with them when you saw them, but then you wanted to suck up as much information as possible. Still keeping yourself for what, 15 years? I mean, you're talking Hurricane Katrina. I mean, shit, man, that's 15 years of keeping yourself locked into some drama for 15 years. You know, unnecessary. You see those people in Walmart, that's your cue to fucking find a different Walmart. You know? Not go up and engage it. Because what do you think's going to happen? You're going to stay trapped in some drama you don't need to be in. So, I hope that helps, and I hope you take that positively. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story, Philip. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general, or you have a topic for the lecture hall, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.